Hello, this video is all about feeding by myself. It's just some tips and suggestions to help you support your child to be able to feed themselves. Now, in my last video, I spoke about coming to reception and going into the canteen, and there the children will have to feed themselves. They will get some help with cutting up food because sometimes that can be tricky, and they will have help to open packets if they're finding that tricky too. But the more we can prepare the children before they go into reception, the better they will do and the happier they will be. So if your child is still relying on you to feed them, it's a good idea to start getting them used to feeding themselves. This will also apply to nursery children as well. Although they're not going to be eating their food here, if they are still being fed by you, then it would be good for them to be able to try doing it by themselves, so that by the time they get up to reception, they're already experts in feeding themselves. Okay, so I've started off with some general notes. Now, these are things like children, when they're learning to feed themselves, generally start about 12 to 18 months. And they start off with finger foods, so they're eating with their hands. Then the natural progression is that they would start to use a spoon, then a fork, and then a knife. So it might depend where your child is in that stage. If your child is confident at using a spoon, but they're not quite confident in using a fork, then obviously that's where they need to have a bit more practice. We all know it's a messy stage. When children are learning how to feed themselves, there is food everywhere. So pick somewhere in the house that they can sit, where it doesn't matter if food gets on the floor. I used to have a waterproof sheet that I used to put under my son's high chair, so that it didn't matter where he splattered food, it ended up on this sheet and it was easy to wipe down and clean out, which was brilliant because I had beige carpets as well, so a bit of a nightmare there. And try to avoid any reactions. If they're throwing food on the floor, they've dropped a bit, and this is more for toddlers really, so this is a little bit earlier than what you would be at for your children, but maybe if you've got younger brothers or sisters, this would apply to them. So just avoid any reactions at all, when they're throwing food, because any reaction will encourage that behaviour and you'll find that they will do it more. Whereas if you ignore it, over time they will realise that they're not getting a reaction out of it, so it's obviously not that worth doing. Allow them to practice using the forks, the spoons and the knives, and provide verbal instructions so that they know what to do. It is very helpful if you can sit all together and eat, because then they see you and they might see the older brother and sister eating, they might see granny and grandpa eating with their knife and their forks and their spoons, and it's just a very nice experience if you can all sit together and eat. And it also shows your child that you can have some really nice social interactions around that table as well, talking about your day and what's gone on for other people in the family. If your child is new to feeding themselves, start by cutting up their food for them, so that all they've got to do is either scoop it or stab it with the fork. It's one less thing. And once they've got control over their spoon and their fork, then you can move on to showing them how to use the knife as well. But just remember that it can take a child up to the age of 6 or 7 before they're able to feed themselves without being too messy as well. So you're probably going to have your 4 or 5-year-olds with food down their chin, or they spilt it because the spoon didn't go all the way in. So just remember that. You could use Things like Play-Doh. It doesn't have to be practicing just at meal times. You can use Play-Doh, spaghetti that they can play with, and they can practice cutting with that as well. Also using utensils. So definitely try and sit your child down at a table, because it's going to be easy for them to be in the right position to be able to use their knife and fork and get it to their mouth. If they're sat in a chair somewhere on the sofa, they're not going to be able to balance their plate to get their food in their mouth, and it's going to be a big mess. So if possible, sit them at a table and a chair. Try to use children's cutlery, because this generally tends to be a lot thicker, so that they can hold it better, and it also tends to be shorter as well. If they have adult cutlery, you tend to find that they have to really scoop around to get it into their mouth, whereas the smaller children's cutlery, they can get it in quite easily. Use bowls or plates that have raised edges so they have something to scoop against. This is more for the younger ones again. So when you're at those early stages, they need something to be able to scoop again. So the little children's plates and bowls that you can get are ideal for that. Non-slip mats are great to prevent the plates from slipping. I used to have them for my boys. I don't know where I got them from, but I'm sure you can buy them from places like Wilko's and things like that. They're just a rubber mat, and it just went under the plate and stopped the plate from skewing over that way or sliding off the table that way. Brilliant. Practice, practice, practice. So obviously, like anything, the more you practice, the better you're going to get at something. So the more opportunities your child has to practice feeding themselves with a fork, or with a knife and fork, even if your child's already confident using the fork, you can try doing the knife, the better. They're going to get it in no time. Children learn in different ways, so you might need to alter your approach. You could physically assist your child by using hand over hand technique, so make sure their hands are gripping the utensils, and then you put your hands over the top, and then you show them how to do it. You could show your child, so you could sit next to your child and use your own cutlery and show your child how to do it. And you can tell your child, talk your child through each step. You might do a combination of two of those as well. You might want to guide and talk to your child through each step. And I think that's it. Obviously, this is being able to feed themselves is going to help boost their self-esteem. It's being independent. It's one of our independence skills. So practice, practice, practice. And good luck. Hopefully, with the lots of practice that they're going to get over the next couple of weeks, they will be independent eaters. And that's what we want. Okay, if I've missed anything out, or you think, I'm not sure about that, then just put a comment on the video and I'll try to get back to you. Okay? Good luck. Goodbye.